He was kicked out for that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's so messed
That's
up.
messed up, yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh. In Sweden, what is the picture of Freemasonry there?
Well, I don't know, because I'm interested, of course, but I haven't talked with anyone specifically about Swedish Freemasonry, but I know that a lot of the English and including American guests that we have had on who have been Freemasons, they've been talking about that Swedish Freemasonry has allegedly been keeping to a lot of the older traditions and been able to maintain uh, the rituals, I guess, in a more how do you word it? In a more traditional way, I think, and that's pretty much what
Yes.
I know about it so far. But again, there is corruption taking place, and was a documentary a while back. It was actually a Norwegian documentary which talked generally about Freemasonry in Scandinavia, and it portrayed similar corruption. It came a little bit from the Christian theological point of view, but it was still very, very good and pointed out very similar things in regards to corruption. And there were a few people, whistleblowers, who had jumped off and began questioning Freemasonry. In this ran on public Swedish television. So I think in one regard, I think it's very similar across the board, and I don't think that
Hmm.
any country at this point have like a totally how do you put it, innocent society, secret society there anymore. That's what I think.
Right, and I do believe that there are many, many millions of very good men who do uphold the mindset that they want to make themselves better, they want to help the burned and crippled children, and those people need to be given credit, but they also need to be given a voice.
Yeah, sure.
And the problem is that there is no mechanism for dissent or questioning within these organizations, because if you question them, you're thrown out and you're retaliated against in the most vicious manner.
Right. So it's very, very difficult to as you say, ask legitimate questions. And um, have you thought about like how that can be solved then? Is there some other group then that needs to go in here and break it up, or have access to what actually is going on? Does this need to be rooted out, or what do you think?
Well, I think that ultimately it's going to be up to the IRS. Now, if these groups, the Shriners, Jesters, and that's really as far as I go. I'm not really ready to be jumping into the Freemasonry investigation, but
Sure. Yeah.
if they complied with nonprofit law and were honest and filled out their tax returns correctly, none of this would happen.
Yeah.
And so again, I believe that the Senate Finance Committee needs to jump in here. According to my sources, you're not going to believe this. According to my sources, the Senate Finance Committee has known about this for over a year.
Mm.
And the past, prior to the new Obama administration, the head was Senator Charles Grassley, Republican of Iowa, and in his bio he's a Mason. And so if he ever hears about this radio interview, I'm going to encourage him and Senator Baucus, the head of the Senate Finance Committee, to take some action here, because we're seeing the biggest nonprofit fraud and abuse of our time here.
Yeah. How about that? If we were to give, I guess, as well, a kind of a picture for people in regards to, I always bring up that kind of analogy when we're talking about the elite and possible, sex rings and whatnot. The analogy of what Stanley Kubrick tried to portray in Eyes Wide Shut, but even including in this case minors, right? Or
Yes.
how would you portray
Yes.
this? Some kind of weird sexual activity, right?
It just sickens me to even think about it, to consider pedophilia, which is what the child sex tourism is. You know that I've written a book, Shriner's Shame, and it is an ebook. And one of the organizations that I really support is ECPAT, which is End Child Prostitution. And they're out in New York. And for every book sale, I give $1 to ECPAT. My publisher, Carol Adler at Dandelion Books, and I agreed early on that we needed to do something to support a group who's going to fight these crimes against children. And again, I when I asked Carol, I asked her that very question, in fact, and I posed it to her this way. I said, Carol, do these guys think they're doing anything wrong when they go to a foreign country and they get a little kid, girl or boy? Some of these guys do the little boys too, and they do these awful things with them. Do they think that they're doing anything wrong? And she said they don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think it's okay. And I'm just going, oh man, it's so foreign to me. Again, if you look around in some of the research that I've done into the child sex tourism in the Philippines and Costa Rica, and in fact, Judge Tills and Michael Stebick, his law clerk, there's a link in some of my articles to many of these documents. I have a link to a Royal Order of Jester calendar, and they had organized a trip to Costa Rica. And Costa Rica is a prime target for child sex tourism. So remember when I quoted Judge from the transcript of them looking into the sexual exploitation of minors and international travel for those purposes. I'm not sure if that was the Costa Rica situation or the Brazilian situation. But either way, these guys, who are described as pillars of the community by Royal Order of Jesters Executive Director Alex Rogers, are using this Royal Order of Jester group to take trips out of country to possibly have sex with little kids.
Yeah.
What? How horrible is that?
Yeah.
And your concern is, you are exactly correct in expressing this concern.
Yeah. And what I want to understand as well, and I mean, I guess many people have for the longest time, but do you think is a disease? It can even be a psychological issue, like a mental disease. Some people have suggested it's the cycle of abuse that keeps this going, meaning that they might themselves actually have been abused and hence continuing this awful trend, if you know what I mean. What do you think at this point?
It could be. One of the things that I did notice in the terms for Judge Tills's release was he had to have alcohol and drug testing and get help. And I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been, Native Americans, and we don't do very good when we're drinking.
Right,
and I've been sober. I've been sober 27 years.
Very good.
And so when I thank you. When I read that about Judge Tills, I think that a lot of the question that you just asked may have to do with alcohol, because the jesters and their parties, they drink. They have these wild weekend parties. There are cops who are hired to guard the floors. They have these hospitality rooms where they're showing pornography and having blowjob contests, and they're gambling, high stakes poker, and drinking and getting snot slinging drunk. And I've written before, I don't care. Ultimately, I don't care if you want to drink, if you want to mess around, or you want to gamble your ass off. But don't do so as a nonprofit group.
Yeah.
And now we are looking into the pedophilia things. So I think a lot of it has to do with the alcohol. And as far as Judge Tills is concerned, I have compassion for the man, because I don't know what alcoholism is like in Sweden or anything, but when you're drunk, you do things you're not very proud of. And I think that these guys get not only drunk with alcohol, they get drunk with power and drunk with this strange mindset that they're above the law.
Right.
As far as the psychological aspects goes, I've not really done much, into the sociopathic kind of behaviors. I really can't speak to that.
Right. Well, and it can also be possibly other drugs as well. You mentioned $600,000 per night for one party. That will pay for a lot of drugs as well, other kind of drugs, which could mess with your head and so forth. And again, it can even be a possibility here that comes up is actually some kind of misinterpretation of certain magical rituals. For instance, there is, the idea of sex magic. You have different types of rituals going on there as well. And this could have gone completely out of hand at some point, and they have misinterpreted this, and now they're trying to do something with this. I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. I don't know really if you have any input on that, but
Oh, sure. With the pagan traditions, the Menzies blood is sacred. And as is with Native American societies, women during the moon are sequestered in many Native American groups, not because they're considered dirty, but because they're considered powerful. And somehow that SOBIB, Sacred Order of Brothers in Blood, this sub-jester group, so I've tried and tried and tried, and I'm pretty good at finding information and digging,
Yeah.
but I can't find out what this SOBIB is. And if anybody's listening, my email is sandyleefrost@yahoo.com. Get a hold of me. I would really like to know if this SOBIB is involved with ritualistic or magic sex abuse rituals and rites.
Sandy, to run things up here for this segment, tell us a little bit about your ebook as well. Can people get a hold of that through your website, or where do we go to get the copy?
If Dandelion Books, Dandelion Publishing, if they Google Sandy Frost and Dandelion Publishing, they'll find my publisher's website, Carol Adler's website, and there is a bar on the left side of the screen with a bunch of names. And so if you go to Shriner's Shame or click on Sandy Frost, you'll read some of the comments that people have said. In fact, Johnny Edwards left a nice comment for me about my book, as have other people. It's what it is a collection of my articles thus far. And so I don't know. Also, again, a $1 per book sale does go to ECPAT to help fight child prostitution and child trafficking. So I am working on a narrative also that'll be a much different to read. Much of my work, I also have a background as a technical writer. I was in the Navy and went through their advanced electronics program, and so then I worked for a technical writer for quite a while. And so part of my ability is being able to take the extremely technical, the tax returns and other court documents, and explain it in a way that most people can understand it. So.
Okay, so very good. Again, the website is sandyfrost.newswine.com. We'll have these links up on redicecreations.com. Check it out and check out the ebook as well. Of course, this will help to put $1 into EPACT, as it were, the End Child Prostitution organization. Very good to talk with you, Sandy. We'll continue talking more now in our member section, but stay with us. Thank you very much for this first hour. We'll take a short break, and we will be right back. Thank you for listening. You can join us in our member section if you want to hear more. We'll go into the more spiritual side of the work that Sandy is doing, her interest in remote viewing, her Native American roots, and we are also going to talk about the importance of intuition. We'll discuss more on the corruption of some of the non-profit organizations, the mythology of Freemasonry, and some of the possible extraterrestrial ties to the origins of Freemasonry. We'll talk about the male structure and order of things in the world, the phallus symbolism everywhere, and talk about how we can get some of the balance back again. So sign up and tune in through our website, redicecreations.com. Try it out for 3 months. You'll get access to our entire radio archive with extended interviews with many of our guests. We also have video interviews, webcasts, and films available there for you. We'll take a short break and tune into some music, and we'll talk more on the other side.